Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you Game 2 in a series between CatZ and Axslav. Game 2 taking place on Lost Temple. CatZ spawning as the teal Zerg player or light blue and Zerg player at the 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock position. Axslav cross spawning here at the 6 o'clock position on Lost Temple as the yellow Protoss. Protoss versus Zerg. I'd be surprised if they actually change their races in this series. So Evil Geniuses Axslav versus CatZ. Game 1, if you haven't seen it, very an interesting play by CatZ. CatZ trying to be very aggressive, trying to... Oh, what was that? He canceled the pylon, so he actually lost a little bit of resources there. And I wonder if he realized he actually canceled it. Oh, going instead for a low ground pylon here. He may be trying to do a forge fast expansion, and that is a little bit delayed, so Axslav will be behind in terms of his economy for just a little bit of time before this pylon is completed. You can see now Axslav moving around with this one probe, trying to see if his opponent has spawned there. Has spawned in this location here, doesn't see it, and now this probe wandering around. We can see Chrono Boost coming off of this Nexus finally, and we should be also seeing a forge being placed down or a gateway sometime soon. If Axslav actually goes for a 15 or 16 Nexus, I would be completely dumbfounded. No, gonna go for a forge, so there's that forge here. And that forge here will start to create a nice front door. Zerglings will have a difficult time trying to run by a pylon or a probe just wandering, patrolling right in between those two locations, as this drone will be able to wander in just a moment. The probe quickly spotting this low ground hatchery, so it means that the spawning pool will be a little bit delayed. We're not going to see early Zerglings or Queens. So Axslav opting to cancel his forge. So he canceled his forge now and is going to be going for a very early Nexus. This is a completely strange play coming in over here as Axslav just waiting for his waiting for enough minerals. Now finally should be getting that Nexus, and now Axslav opening up with a 17 Nexus, and that is just going to perhaps confuse CatZ completely, opting to go for a very strong economic game. The probe now battling it out over here, getting some damage onto this drone. The drone now down to 25 hit points. The probe did actually take some actual damage there. The shields will not be able to recharge as that probe pulls away. We finally get a forge here, and this very aggressive early Nexus coming in from Axslav, helping him out in order to keep up with his with the Zerg player's economy. You can now see a gateway currently being warped in by Axslav. CatZ wandering around with this drone. And at this stage in the game, CatZ has to be wondering what exactly he can do. He knows that because this is a cross-spawn, he can't really put enough pressure onto his opponent's base. And this pylon here, you can place cannons here to make it difficult to try to run around. And then you can also place a cannon up here on this high ground and to start covering this location here as well. There is currently one photon cannon. This Nexus will be completed in just a moment, and probes are already being transferred to the natural expansion. So 8 probes now being transferred here, and we'll be able to mine out this location relatively, or start saturating this location relatively quickly. Production, both sides training 2 probes at the same time, and the Zerg player CatZ, who would normally want to just start power droning here, needs to really stay on top of his power droning in order to make sure he does not fall behind in terms of his economy. 24 drones or 27 drones compared to 25 probes, and that is it. That is all you currently see. 26 probes, not another single unit coming in from Axslav at this stage. Assimilator currently has four probes on here, so Axslav probably not going to realize that he has 4 probes on this assimilator. And with that, he is not, actually no, he did realize it. Now transferring to 3, so wow. Keeping track of his probes, realizing that there was actually 4 probes on that assimilator, pulling one back onto the minerals and making sure to get a stronger economy going. A second assimilator now down here, so Axslav will be running off of 2 gas. A Zealot now being trained will be able to position itself here as a pylon now being warped in, perhaps getting some photon cannons along this edge here, or perhaps just to be able to spot any additional units that try to make it, or any overlords and mules that try to come in. We currently have another hatchery being placed down by CatZ. I like this in-base hatchery play by CatZ. It allows CatZ to have a much higher production in terms of Zergling, roaches, and drones. He can power drone and also create a decent sized army while at the same time not overextending himself. The problem though is that CatZ needs to get up another base relatively quickly, otherwise he's going to find himself behind in terms of expansions, as normally Zerg players want to keep one expansion on top of their opponent. Income wise, wow, 15 or 1400 versus 900 right now. You may think that CatZ has such a significant lead, but you also have to remember that Axslav is mining off of 4 assimilators, so he has double the gas production right now compared to CatZ. No, CatZ finally also catching up, so you're going to see these two numbers get closer and closer together as more drones are being pulled off from the minerals in order to mine more gas. One drone still on the inside, able to just gain as much sight as he possibly wants. That drone now down to 16 hit points though, will get shooed away by that sentry. As this drone tries to make its way back down, will it be able to escape down to 1 hit point, and now able to run the circle one more time. A hero probe getting in that final shot there. Overlord in the air, gaining sight on this expansion, and now Axslav running off of 2 bases feels pretty confident. He doesn't feel the need to take up a 3rd base just quite yet, and we should see a decent sized army being trained up in just a moment. Level 1 weapons upgrade, Phoenix is being trained. I don't see a robotics facility yet. So without a robotics facility, he has no real way of scouting besides this Phoenix, which moves relatively quickly. Movement speed of 4.25 and also flies. So it's essentially a flying Hellion, able to do as much scouting as he possibly wants. The Phoenix may be able to shoot down 1 or perhaps 2 of these overlords that are currently in the air. Phoenix just wandering around so far, making sure that his opponent is still running off of 1 base. Phoenix still now coming around, taking a look at this very, very large swarm of overlords. In comes some more queens, and those queens are going to be able to almost take down that Phoenix here. I believe if CatZ had left this queen alone, and that queen could have taken down that Phoenix, gotten in enough damage, or at least make it into the red, but instead he decided to spawn larva. We have the Carapace upgrades for those overlords, so the overlords are going to be able to move much more quickly as we are now going into a spire. But we are seeing a fleet beacon being warped in as well. So the fleet beacon means that either we are going to have carriers. I'm not quite sure what happened with those probes here. This may have been a complete misclick. I'm not quite sure what he did here. Axslav needs to redistribute the rest of his units, rest of his probes. Some of those probes are going to lose those mineral or lose that gas there. An observer now being trained, and we are also going into a robotics bay. So are we going to have a mothership with cloaked Colossus? That would be a very strange sight indeed. So we are getting the level 1 weapons upgrade, robotics facility, and the robotics bay. This is all going to be off of 2 bases. E.g. Axslav very, very effective off of 2 base play. The Phoenix is now constantly just harassing the mineral line, and those Phoenixes did get a couple kills. I believe 1 or perhaps 2 kills between the rest of those Phoenixes. No, 4 kills between those Phoenixes as the Hydralisk and now Zerglings trying to battle it out over here. Axslav needs to pull back with those units. Phoenixes are picking up some of those Hydralisks, trying to pick them off, and now those Stalkers and Sentries trying to come into a retreat there, able to do so. One observer still keeping track of these Hydralisks and those Zerglings, and now in full retreat. The Hydralisk would be able to get some damage onto those warp gates though, as those Hydralisks should have a range of 6 if it is upgraded. The Photon Cannon is out of range with only a range of 7, but another Nexus has been placed down by Axslav, so Axslav opting to go for a 3rd base over here at the 3 o'clock expansion. And Axslav may try to get in another pylon. No, 4 cannons here. 4 cannons and now another pylon in order to try to protect this expansion. And now continuing to just mine out of this location here. One observer keeping track of these Hydralisks. CatZ doesn't know about that expansion. Otherwise, he would already be trying to attack it. And with this pylon here, he should be able to warp in some sentries or some zealots in order to fend off that attack there. One observer in the air. Stalker now is going to get taken down, but the Stalkers are going to be able to stop many of those Hydralisk Zerglings coming in, and now in comes some force fields there, stopping many of those Zerglings. Zerglings now trying to come back around on the far side, but the Stalkers are in such a nice defensive position with so many of those force fields that as soon as this Colossus comes within range, it will be able to finish off the rest of those Zerglings once again. So 3 base play coming in from Axslav. Axslav does still have his fleet beacon up. I believe, yeah, he has his fleet beacon up, but he hasn't done anything with it. Yeah, all it has is it makes the carriers launch interceptors more quickly. There is no flux veins, as this is the 1.2.0 patch. So the movement speed upgrade for the movement speed upgrade for Void Rays does not exist anymore, but they do deal more damage towards massive units. Axslav currently with one photon cannon here. There are a couple Mutalisks now in the air, so those Mutalisks perhaps will be able to get some damage onto some of the probes. There is currently some pylons now being warped in as well, in addition to more Colossi being trained. So Colossi is now still being trained. A Zealot with that level 1 weapons upgrade quickly making short work of that Zergling. However, a sea of Zerglings now coming in to try to take down that one Zealot. That Zealot gonna get taken down and very, very easily there, and now down it goes. Back here, Zerglings still swarming around. Hydralisk perhaps thinks that there is an expansion. Gonna quickly see that there is an expansion there, and now some damage coming in. Down goes that one photon cannon. CatZ is dealing a lot of damage across multiple probes here, and now more Mutalisks coming in, and Axslav is in a little bit of trouble now, trying to fend off against this attack. Another cannon has been taken down. Another Colossus over here. Stalkers do not have Stalker Blink, unable to get over there, get underneath the rest of those Stalkers as those Mutalisks. As the Mutalisks now just chaining that additional damage, taking down the Stalkers one at a time, trying to micro, making sure that Glaive Worm bounce continues to splash across multiple units there. And now CatZ, after shutting down the main base, is looking pretty strong. There are some more photon cannons being warped in across at the natural expansion as these pylons are going to slowly become be taken down, and now 4 of the warp gates are unpowered, including the robotics facility and the robotics bay. Extended thermal lance range has not been completed. Stalkers, sentries, and zealots just hiding off in the distance as mass Mutalisks in the air cleaning up the main base, and this is going to be a problem for Axslav. I'm not sure what Axslav can really do in order to get back into this game. He needs to perhaps get a mothership, and if he's able to get a mothership and use that vortex ability, he should be able to get a lot of damage in. With a vortex, you can see that the photon cannons here are slowly recharging as well, as there was an attack on this expansion, but the photon cannons were able to get off a lot of kills, and mostly Zerglings that were trying to run their way through. A lot of the major tech of Axslav is now sitting over here. Unpowered Stargate, unpowered Warp Gates, Robotics Bay, and a Robotics Facility. One observer still hiding out over here. The Mutalisks now trying to come in, going to be able to finish off the rest of these Stargates. And now Axslav, I'm not quite sure what he can do at all. He's down to 105 over 100. He is currently supply locked and losing a majority of his tech, as the Mutalisk with 1-0 upgrades finishes off the main base. More Mutalisks taking down, so Axslav is now simply down to 2 bases. Army-wise, you can see how far behind he is, 2,300 compared to 5,000, as we are now getting the level 1 armor upgrades. The Mutalisks may try to push in on this front side here. Photon Cannon now trying to come in as well. Stalkers do not have Stalker Blink, 118 over 108. As the Mutalisks gonna fly in over here, this may be a little bit of a problem. There are a lot of photon cannons. The Mutalisks now simply coming in, absorbing much of that damage. And Axslav now in trouble as the Zerglings are running rampant through the natural expansion here. Sentries now trying to come in. Colossus, Guardian Shield now going to get thrown up there, but the Nexus and the probes are in danger of getting shut down permanently here. You can see the Mutalisks trying to back away. More force fields coming in, making it very difficult for those Zerglings, but the Nexus has been taken down. Axslav does have a Templar Archives, but only 1 powered Warp Gate at this time. Back over here, there are now, 5 photon cannons, and the Mutalisks may be able to simply come in once again, and mass Mutalisks making their way through this base. Almost 30 Mutalisks going after that Nexus now, and that Nexus will get taken down. The mothership will not arrive as it is shut down. Down it goes. Mutalisks now finishing off the rest of those photon cannons, and Axslav says GG. So Axslav unable to keep his perfect win streak on my channel, loses to CatZ here on Lost Temple, and losing to mass Mutalisk play. Very, very impressive play by CatZ. 30 plus Mutalisks able to swarm around the map, being almost everywhere at once, shutting down the main base as there was only 2 to 3 photon cannons. And as soon as that main base fell, Axslav didn't have all that much. He was unable to warp in additional units. Many of his probes were taken down. As soon as his economy started to suffer, he could not keep up with the sheer macro that CatZ was able to do. CatZ running off of a lot of Vespene guys, or a lot of extractors. You can see that if he needed more gas, he could have just transferred some drones here, running off of gas over here and running off of gas here as well. CatZ not getting that many minerals at all. from his main bases and just deciding to get a lot of gas to support this mass Mutalisk army. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed game 2 in this, what I believe to be a best of 3 series between Root Gaming's CatZ and Evil Genius's Axslav. Stay tuned for game 3.